Cannons and treadheads, this is internet personality Vangelus, and the other original Headmaster in Wave 1 of Titans Returns' Deluxes was this guy, Hardhead, and his partner, the Durable Furious Furos. I'm sorry, who's Duros? That sounds like the kind of old-timey name you'd hear in an old people's fiction. Furos just so happens to look like a lovely 21st century update to Duros, with a lot of the right kind of sculpt, color layout, and etc. to clearly call back to Hardhead's old head. The yellow face and blue eye paint apps are the perfect cherry on top, and the head mode is totally the G1 Hardhead toy, with its notched faceplate and square cheek protrusions. Just a solid gosh darn Titanmaster this Furos is. His name starts with the letter F. And with a slot ready to accept his heel tab, Furos sits comfortably within the orange canopied cockpit of his quadro-treaded futuristic space tank. This is a very throwbacky overhaul on G1 Hardhead's alt mode, flattening things out and tightening the chassis to look a little sleeker and closer to the ground. There's copious surface sculpt all over the place, and a fairly decent rolling ability with 2 wheels and a big tumbler hidden underneath. Hardhead's main cannon can pivot up and down thanks to a double-jointed base plate, and can also be entirely removed thanks to its 5mm connection. It's got a port on top, which is a natural place to put his rifle, but if you want to maintain sleekness, the rifle's actually got a tiny hole that's sized to use one of the Titanmaster foot pegs. Unfortunately, such a minuscule connection means it's fairly easy to accidentally knock the gun loose, too. There are 4 foot pegs in total, allowing for a solid crew of support accompaniment. You can also hinge open the back of the main cannon to reveal a seat for a 5th passenger, bringing Hardhead's total Titanmaster carry capacity up to 6. 6! While I never had a Hardhead as a child, my understanding is that this guy mirrors a lot of the basic motions of the transformation, and that translates into a textbook satisfying Deluxe mainline conversion scheme. The limbs form from the tread blocks, big surprise, but the central meat of the tank pulls a very cool fold-over sandwich job to become a properly solid robot with a beefy hand feel that goes slightly above and a touch beyond what I was used to with the Combiner Wars Deluxes. And look at this darn solid piece of robot! The proportions are a touch stocky in the He-Man sort of direction, the design identity is dripping with G1 Hardhead, and he looks dang bloody solid from just about every angle. Ignore the hollow inner forearms. Thanks. Hardhead hits it in just about every way, from his identifiable vehicle chunks to his color layout to major details like the non-opening chest hatch that hides Schrodinger's tech spec readout. The cod piece does that thing I love, where it takes G1 sticker details and translates them into a combination of surface sculpting and accent paintwork. Unfortunately, my biggest complaint with the colors is directly below all that, as the tread block plastic color was used on Hardhead's upper hips, giving him the appearance of wearing bike shorts under armored speedos. His shoulder cannon is properly ridiculous and swivelable, and you can also play with the 5mm connections to let him hand-wield it, combine it with his other gun, and etc. As for the Tamashii stages and track stands in the audience, there is an anal peg hole for display armature interaction. Furos doesn't sit in here, if you put him in normally, as nicely as one might like. He's a little bit springy, so he's another one of these guys where you might just want to spin him around 180, stick him in, then turn the head back around, and then everything's all cool. This ball-jointed neck works out a bit better. Proportionally, this guy's arms sometimes come off a bit long, but the way to fix that is to have them arranged like this, because there is a ball socket shoulder joint, and then this up and down thingamadoo, and I always tend to put this up a bit, just makes the proportions look a little bit nicer with the big block of the shoulder. He can go fully, well, about 80% tree. This is where the swivel sort of stops. He does have a bicep swivel and a hinge for his elbow, and then with the transformation he has this clickety hinge as well. I don't know that I would call this a double-jointed elbow, though. It's not quite. Like, he gets this one extra little bit of curl, but it's just really one click on the top joint. His wrists, yo, they can swivel. That's cool. The transformation also allows him to do this, which I find way less useful than the friggin' swivel, which makes me real happy. It's a nice placebo because there is no waist joint due to the nature of the transformation. And even if there was, this thing is plugged right into his butt. Ain't no waist spinning happening. However, there are ball socket hips with copious Van Dammitude. The bottoms of his bike shorts are also a cut where there is a mushroom peg thigh swivel. Single jointed knee that allows for a solid 90 degrees. When you play with this guy, this transformation joint often comes loose, and that's not really useful for anything in my opinion. He has a transformation joint to let him point his toe. Again, I don't find it super useful. He's got one of these sculpted A stances, so when you put him down, dude stands real darn well. Like I said, he's got some stature. He's good looking. He feels pretty good too. There's a whole lot of the G word on this guy, that being good. Generally, this dude exemplifies the basic effective posability added to what looks pretty much like a G1 toy kind of approach that one might see if one glances at Titan's Return. Also, none of his joints really feel bad. Like, these lower elbows are probably the worst part. Like, the clickety top part's great. I wish the bottom clicked too. It's just straight up pin hinge, and they can be a bit loose. Like, see, this one's riding a bit of an edge. I'd get some floor polish in there probably in future. But otherwise, you know, it feels like a good gosh darn toy. Hardhead is he can listen. His name is Hardhead, all right? He can deal with it. Hardhead brings a true total package to the first wave of Titan's Return Deluxes, with 2 solid modes, a fun transformation, G1 updatery in all the right ways, and just enough play pattern to be enhanced by adding a few solo Titanmasters to the mix. The opening cockpit on the back of his cannon, man. The double-jointedness, the integratedness. While not faultless, the robot man of solid cranium brings qualities to the table that outweigh just about all of his downsides, in my experience. He's one of the standouts of Wave 1, and for weeks, he was the Titan's Return toy to talk about when the line first dropped. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and the back half of the Wave 1 Deluxe has introduced the other side of Titan's Return. That being, well, everybody in this line is a Headmaster, whether they like it or not.